Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 94th edition of the Frank and Stan Chat. And I'm delighted to say we have Caroline Foster, a colleague I've known for a number of years, who's agreed to join us on this mad half hour that we have. So, hello, Caroline.
Hi, Frank. How are you doing?
Very well. It's lovely to see you again. Before we get on to Stan, can you just introduce yourself and explain what you're doing, what your role is, what you have done, and how we know each other?
Sure, yeah. As Frank said, Caroline Foster. I'm Senior Vice Principal at a school in Calderdale. I lead on inclusion, behaviour, student support, attendance, some DSL as well, so a wide range of roles. But we know each other, Frank. We work together over in Leeds, part of the same trust. Again, worked together, as you said, for many years, and did a different role there because I headed up teaching and learning there. So come to a different school. It's very interesting actually because it's similar cohort, similar. And I've taken on a different role, and it's been a fantastic challenge. Yeah, so
fabulous. I have to say also to colleagues, I've actually seen Caroline teach. Caroline's seen me teach mathematics really badly, but she was very kind. So it's great to have you here, Caroline. And I know you're going to talk about some of the stuff that we did together at the Academy in Leeds that actually got sort of a bit of a national, sort of viewpoint on it. So people thought it was quite good. So anyway, Stan, how are you this week?
It's been an interesting week since. Did we say last week my mother had broken her hip?
I don't know if we told everybody, but I do know that
so she'd broken her hip. Within a week, she was back in a care home.
Wow!
And within 24 hours, fell again and was back in hospital. So it's been a sort of roller coaster week this week. But she's back in the care home now. So all that's happened in 10 days, I think.
Right. Well, I suppose she's back in the care home harassing all the staff, which is what unwilling to do anything. She's like a truculent year 10.
She's like the teenager that you never really wanted. But she did say she's also obviously suffering from dementia. So one of the things that she do laugh at these things, she said that when somebody asked her, my sister asked how she was this week, she said, "Oh, absolutely fine. They've been really good with me. And because me and your dad have been dancing and they've been watching us dance, they like to see us dance and they've been watching us." So my mum's got a broken hip. My dad died 7 years ago. Apparently they're dancing to entertain people.
All right. Oh, well, okay. Well, Stan, what's caught your eye this week?
Well, for me, it was quite exciting to find that they've rediscovered the Endurance, the ship that Ernest Shackleton sailed on, and I'm a great fan of his leadership style, let's say, or his leadership lessons. And he's known as one of the best leaders ever, despite the fact that he never actually achieved an aim that he set himself, and he only ever managed 27 people. But his style, his understanding must have been natural. I don't think he was a student of leadership, but he had a way of making sure that he got the right people in the right place at the right time. And his recruitment and his management of people was first class.
I mean, there was no training.
So they survived.
Yeah, no national programs for endurance
the boat
expeditions.
Leadership. No, but he managed to 27 of them managed to survive on the ice for 2 years, and he eventually, in order to save his men who were getting close to starvation at the end of that, he sailed 800 miles in a rowing boat to land at South Georgia, then climbed over a glacier because they landed on the wrong side of the island, and then managed to get to a whaling station where a week or so later they managed to get back out to the island where the rest of the men were and rescue them all.
I think that was the amazing story. That was I think that's the thing also, that the men that he left behind had confidence that he would come back.
Yeah.
That's just amazing as well.
Well, the other thing he did, which which is one of the, we don't want to go the whole thing on Shackleton. One of the things that he did, which I found amazing, and you can apply this to schools if you want, was that when there were tough things to do, like they had 3 rowing boats and they separated the men into the 3 rowing boats, he took the whingers and the moaners and the ones most likely to mutiny in the boat with him,
Right.
even though it was potentially the last thing they were ever going to do. He didn't pal up with people he liked and people he wanted. He did that so that the other 2 boats had the best chance of survival.
Wow. Wow.
Which is just wow.
Well, I have to say,
it's like the Christmas party and deciding which table you sit on when you go.
Well, I mean, it's not Shackleton, is it? But actually, you know, the Ukrainian leader is demonstrating some very effective communication skills at the moment, isn't he? You know, because when you think about the pressure that Shackleton was under, but also you think about the Ukrainian leader doing this remotely, you know, not actually meeting in effect most of the people that he's commanding, but actually doing that through a little telephone or whatever he's got. But actually, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that natural leadership that some people have, you know, and the consistency of the messaging, you know, and the honesty and the principles that he's got that underpin his messaging. You know, none of us have met him, but I think a lot of people are in awe of him, you know, and how different that looks like to the Russian leader, it's very much managed, it's very, you know, sort of scripted in a way, you know, it's got all the glory behind him, all the glitz, but actually it hasn't got that truthfulness to it, you know. What do you think, Caroline?
Well, I'm not allowed to comment on this because I work in a school and I have to stay neutral. I cannot give my views on this, but yes, I have been really impressed.
You're going to go far,
really
Caroline. Your career is heading to the stratosphere because that was a really good answer.
I'm absolutely not, but I think you will know my opinion on this.
Yeah.
I have been really, really impressed with
Okay, well, what's caught your eye this week?
So I get this weekly sort of bulletin for senior leaders that drops in my inbox every day. And one of the things that I've seen more recently and more often come up is issues around workload and schools and staff going on strike in terms of workload, in terms of not being happy. And, you know, I think it caught my eye more because of the work we did, Frank, around workload. And, you know, I've been really lucky to work for 2 trusts that have taken workload really, really seriously and really, really thought through the impact of the things that they've done in terms of supporting teachers and supporting staff. But I think what's been lost through this pandemic really is the impact, the impact on a wide range of roles in school, on leaders, on teachers. And I've seen some amazing resilience in my current school, in schools of people that I know work in different schools, but it is concerning. But, you know, it just shows how some schools have really, really responded to that. I can't comment on the ones that I've seen in the media, but it is a national issue that needs to be addressed. There needs to be some sort of plan because it's not sustainable. And to see the impact day to day, you know, it's quite, it's sad really, I guess, is the question. But I don't know how much leaders outside of schools really, really understand that and what they're doing to protect us, because there was that, you know, when we were leading on that and when we were doing the workload survey, they were on it then. They were sort of thinking about it now, but it just seems to have been forgotten. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I really haven't seen that.
What we had a team meeting yesterday amongst the advisors who were obviously meeting with senior leaders, and the consensus of opinion seemed to be that there was almost 2 ways that schools have reacted to this. One is that they've come really close together as a really well-knit team and are all still doing everything, sort of increasing their own workload, I suppose, to some extent, or the culture's really broken apart and people are now objecting to things and there was a head who mentioned that his staff were complaining about workload, which he was listening to, but he said they're not doing anything different than they were before the pandemic. It's as if the pandemic has, if you like, given people so much to worry about that everything else on top of it, even though they were managing it all before, is now too much.
I think there's that part. I think people had forgotten the sort of what had to be done before, but I also, from the pastoral side, which I've seen this time, because when I was working with Frank on it, it was all about, we sort of took it from a teaching and learning point of view. But I guess what I've learned is, from the pastoral side, I have 4 or 5 members of pastoral team out. We don't get a supply teacher in to cover them, which then impacts on behaviour, it impacts on what's going on in the classroom, and you can't fill that gap. And it has a rippling effect throughout the school, and everyone has to play their part, and it's challenging. And I'm just really in awe of teachers I've seen have just risen to the challenge, mucked in, done their bit, but it does need to be considered at a higher level, because we can't sustain this. The things that have come from the pandemic, and they're not going to go away soon, the mental health issues, the issues with poverty, student movement, all that type of thing, it's an issue.
I agree. I mean, I was very struck yesterday. I'm involved in trying to secure funding for a town as part of a major levelling up program, and we're getting, I think, reasonably close to getting a commitment. But actually, my concern is this is the last thing that teachers actually want at the moment, and you think, well, if we don't take it now, we're probably not going to get another opportunity. And it is actually something that's dear to our heart, all 3 of us, I think, is this idea of just trying to level up so that the poorest members of our community have a fair crack at it, and that's what it's about. And I think every teacher that I engage with says, I believe in that. That's what we ought to be doing. But actually, I'm not sure I've got the bandwidth to cope with it at the moment. And you're asking me to do even more at a point when I've actually already been asked to do loads more, and I'm not sure I can go much further. So, I mean, I don't think the government, I'm not asking you to comment on this now, Karen, but I don't think the government's listening to that. I think they're about, get on with it now. It's all gone now. COVID's not there now. We don't have to test anymore. All of that is part of that sort of narrative around, well, why aren't, exams are going to roll out in the summer? Well, that's it, isn't it? We're back.
Yeah, but I do think there's an element of people were made far more aware of things like poverty, of things like disadvantage during that time, because it became very apparent, and that in the mind of teachers, that needs fixing. And so, that appears to be, whether it is physically another bit of workload, but it's certainly something that's on people's minds now. And I suggest that, where schools are trying to do something about it, it will feel like additional work. We've got to worry about this now. We've got, as well as everything else I've ever had to do. And I understand that. I do think we're going to need a time, like a circuit break for schools, where we perhaps need to go and relook at values and things and decide what we're about as an organisation.
I think is there a disconnect though, Stan, between the values that some schools hold in terms of it being, at the end of the day, poverty and not having any food or not having sufficient income actually trumps everything else. So you want the academic results because that's going to give the children opportunities, but actually there are some sort of lower order or more important issues that are at play, which I think the pandemic allowed us to focus fully on those. And for me, those are sort of more important than the academic. But it's now trying to keep an eye on that while we move into this new sort of fresh world.
I think they are to most people. If you ask them what the key things that are about children, what do we need to get right? But unfortunately for teachers, that's not how they're judged.
No.
So they're not judged on whether they've managed to improve children's home life or whether they've managed to get the disadvantage. They're judged on results, and that's the I suppose, the unfairness that causes more mental pressure.
But I think, Caroline, I mean, the school you're serving then is obviously, in a fairly sort of challenging community. It's socio-economically low down, probably needs a lot of investment. I mean, is this sort of ringing true for you in terms of what you can feel within your community?
Absolutely. I mean, we're about 50% disadvantaged, and as you know, there's lots of students who would be disadvantaged, but they can't claim
Yes.
the things they need. But I think, more and more as well, families are calling on us for support, which they would normally go to external services for, because they can't get to them, they can't get to the doctors, they can't get the help, then coming into school. And during the pandemic, when we had COVID, I know it hasn't disappeared, but some people seem to think it has. We did have more capacity to help them with things like that, because we didn't have as many students in school. We've now got the full cohort of students back in school, and we're still having to support families with all of these things, and support with the mental health, the behaviour issues that have declined since the pandemic, and it's very, very challenging, because we don't have that capacity anymore. We had more, but it's now gone. We're back to normal now, Frank.
Yeah, but your families have learned that there's a new route into support, haven't they? And that's the school that they know, and that's going to be hard to undo that link. I mean, personally, I would say, from a wider government perspective, we shouldn't be undoing that link. We should actually be building on that link and make the school the central hub of what was going on. Because that's where I think we always get things wrong with support services. We don't put them in the right places. I can remember saying years ago, why aren't we putting things in supermarkets? Why isn't the doctor and the dentist, the people in and around supermarkets where we know the general public go?
Yes.
That it's more difficult.
I absolutely agree. It's lovely, and it's nice when families come to you, because it's the trust us as a school to deal with it. What the government needs to do is give us the funding to be able to maintain that and to support the families, because we're not getting that support from them. I happily do it. It's great. We know the families the best. We know the students, but we need the time, and we need the capacity and the funding to be able to do that. I think you're absolutely right, Stan.
And you've not got the support from Offstage either, have you, with their view on things?
It makes it even more challenging when, we're due in Offstage anytime. We're waiting for the call every week, and it's that additional pressure, isn't it? It's difficult, but as long as you're doing the best by the kids, and we've always said that, Frank, as long as we feel like we're doing the best for the kids, the stuff can work.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, you and I have been through Offstage inspections, particularly the last one at that school, where I thought, this isn't right. You just don't get it. And actually, that's the sad thing. When there's so much stuff that your school's probably doing now, which is completely unsighted to the inspection team, because they simply don't understand the context. They don't understand your families. They say they do, because they will say, oh, well, I've taught in a school like yours, but actually they don't, because it's not your school, and as such, it's difficult to sort of get under the skin of it in such a short period of time. Says the man who actually supported the development of short inspections. But anyway, let's move on. So the thing for me that what's caught my eye this week is we had a guest on we've had Susan Brickell came on. Do you remember, Stan? She's a chair of governors of 2 schools, and she also was a governor at the school where our children went to. And I don't know her socially, but she lives fairly close to us. But Karen, she's got the most amazing followers. There are thousands of people that watch her video when she comes on as a guest. It's amazing. But
no
Susan,
pressure, Caroline.
Susan,
no pressure at all.
Susan highlighted to me an issue, because we both have attended the same church, about I think it's a Southwark bishop who has written to the parents of a school in a mat that they run down in London, because the school had invited a writer in from the LGBTQ community, and he wrote to them. He wrote to the school to say that he wanted that visit to be pulled because it didn't meet with Catholic principles teaching. And so, good on the head, good on the governors. They all refused. So he sacked all the governors, and I wonder what he's going to do with the head. I mean, but actually, it just sort of it really jolted me, because it made me think that actually I thought we were better than that. I thought it's always a sort of reminder about how far we haven't got, as well as how far we have. And that journey for about inclusivity is still a long way to go if we're still experiencing this amongst. Because for me, talking about Offstage should be knocking on every single door in that trust now.
Yeah.
To say, how inclusive is this school? And actually, to be honest, if it isn't, making everyone inadequate, because actually they're not inclusive, and they're not actually, there's a fear that the curriculum is going to be affected, severely affected by that sort of approach. So I'd certainly want to unravel that. So yeah.
I think I don't know the categories in the Catholic Church well enough, but
really,
whoever is above the bishop, who
there isn't anybody. The only one that is there is there is
not an archbishop or something.
There's a head honcho in England, and then it goes to the Pope.
No, I mean, I'm sure it's an archbishop that has backed the bishop.
Right, I wasn't aware that the head honcho has backed it as well.
Somebody higher up the chain has supported what's gone on, which again, you then start to say, well, what's going on in all those schools?
Well, it's the chaplain, apparently the school chaplain. I don't know if you've seen the letter that it must be a he, I suspect it's a he, sent out, but it's full of spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, sort of things. But over and above that, it was just very, very as if he'd said, and I've spoken to a governor, and I've spoken to some community members, and you think, well, what the hell are you doing? The school chaplain writing about something like that is just, I think it's just disgraceful. So I thought I'd raise that as the issue, because I know that for those of us who are still involved in the Catholic Church, this is sort of the worst side of it. This is what makes you think, what the hell am I doing? Why am I there? Which I often think about anyway, but this really brings it to a head for me. So yeah.
I think, Frank, the other thing is that really gets to you is the hypocrisy of it. I'm not going to say much further than that, but if you say we can't have people from this community in our schools,
yeah, I know.
What about those that are in the church?
Yeah, I know. Well, it does. Bearing in mind the history of the Catholic Church, as a boy who grew up in Catholic education, with a brother who also experienced not a very pleasant experience, from within that, you think, well, that they weren't that bothered about our safeguarding anyway. That was the least of their concerns. The biggest concern was just trying to protect the good name of the church. And, there is just so much hypocrisy in the decisions that have been made, and I personally, our family have been devastated by, actions taken by church leaders. It's been well, my parents have now passed away, but it's still a real sort of sore, I think, within the family. So to hear this sort of stuff going on, where it doesn't feel as though anyone's learnt anything, it's a church for some, it's for church for those who accept everything, and we never get it wrong. From a church,
very loud advocates for free speech don't seem to have responded quite the same circumstance, do they?
Yeah, no. I mean,
I think why.
I think also the other thing, I think we've got time for this, is I don't know if you saw, Caroline, but there was a number of schools in Sheffield tried to become an academy, Catholic schools, and there again the bishop just said to them, Well, we're going to join one of two trusts, and they're both going to be our trusts, you know. So they then had to sort of, you know, they were going to drive that through, but that's, I don't think, been overturned, but that decision is still hanging there, as if it's, you know, there is some debate as to whether it will happen or not. So the thing for us, I think we've said, Stan, is, you know, these things about becoming an academy are great if actually your community wants to become an academy.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about me wanting it to happen or Caroline wanting it to happen. It has to happen, you know, with the community on board with it, understanding what they're doing and, you know, how it will affect them. Are you an academy, Caroline?
Sorry.
Are you an academy?
We are, yeah, we're an academy.
Yeah.
Well, there doesn't seem to be, though, is safeguards that say, well, what if this school were very unhappy being an academy? Because the academy runs the governing board, so, you know, there is no way of there is no change route unless the school's failing.
Yeah.
And I just think, and I did a bit of work on it, not enough to share, but on how you could create a structure that would mean that perhaps every 3 years the school had to consider whether it was happy where it was in this particular multi-academy trust.
Hey Stan, we should have done that for local authority schools, though.
Yeah.
You know, well, I don't like Stockport. We'll go and join Trafford. You know, they've got a better deal.
Technically, well, in terms of the support you can buy in, we're almost at that point. You can buy your support in wherever.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to your point there, Frank, that, you know, the schools are there for the community, and if it doesn't work for that community, some people can't just come in and say, right, we're putting this model here and this is what's going to work. The school's there to serve the community, and yeah, you can't just have a blanket approach.
No, I think also we've got examples, haven't we, where it's difficult to know whether you're a success or not as an academy trust. You know, I suppose in a sense, you know, if your reason for existing is to serve the community and you do that really, really well, obviously you try and teach the children as well as you can, and you want them to get, you know, the best stands they can. But if actually the reason for existing is to get the best results you can, then actually the community can be a bit of a nuisance. You know,
well, equally, Frank, to be
fair, you don't want
fair,
those kids from that community. So
there are local authority schools that don't work necessarily for the community either. It's not. I don't think it's an academy thing or a local authority control thing. I think it's about the culture of the school and whether in this sort of drive for higher standards we've forgotten about the communities that we serve.
Yeah.
And service, meaning actually serving, as opposed to doing what you want.
I would say, Caroline, one of the bits of work you used to do at that academy where we worked together, you developed a red hot sort of approach to attendance, and you used to have this sort of analysis of, I mean, as if the kids missed a lesson, you were on it, sort of thing. You know, I mean, is that something you've continued in this new role?
Absolutely. One of the things that, you know how much I love attendance, I can talk about it all day. You should have started me when we don't have much time left. But yeah, one of the things that attracted me to this post in this school was the attendance needed to shift quite quickly, and it was a problem for the community. And yeah, absolutely. I can say we're above national now.
Yeah.
Since I got
here. How have you done it then? How have you done it?
Oh, I have an amazing attendance team. We have had to put more money into the attendance team, but it's just about keeping it high profile.
Yeah.
Amazing lead attendance officer who's on it with every single family. But it's about, again, tailoring your approach to the community that you serve, because you can't come in with just, this is how to improve attendance. Some people come to me and just say, Caroline, how did you improve attendance at that school? But I can't give a do this, because it's about working with the families and that tailored approach to the families, and also keeping it high profile in school, reminding everyone it's there, you know, it's everyone's job to improve attendance, like it's everyone's job to improve teaching and learning and to teach good lessons and to look after the kids. But yeah, really, really pleased. You know, we get the national figures. We're not quite near where we need to be, but we're not nationally, we're not back where we were post-COVID. But yeah, really pleased that we're above those figures consistently. So it's been a real success, something I've enjoyed doing, but it's hard work. It's not easy, and it's not a quick fix. I was talking to my attendance officer today, and you know, you can't just stop there now. You have to keep it up. It ain't a case of, right, we can cut back, we can put more resource into this now. It's one of those things that it's just a jigsaw, isn't it? Bringing it together. And
yeah, maintaining it is actually harder than getting it there, isn't it, really? You know, because it's a bit like the focus shifts onto something else, and suddenly you're not flavor of the month because it's not improving, you know, X% each month, you know, so it is difficult to maintain it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, have you got the, I mean, you had an amazing team at the last school, you know, and I do remember there were one or two sort of key players in that team. Have you got similar sort of players in your current school then that are actually, I don't know, just seem to go way beyond where they ought to go?
Oh, they're absolutely, you know, a real credit to the school. Like, you know, this morning, my lead attendance officer, we're talking about workload, so I shouldn't really say this, but at 5:10 this morning, texting me, do we need to do this? She's working late at night, but that is what it takes at the moment, and in challenging circumstances. You know, the kids are in bad habits. They've been off school for a while, and we need to get them back into good habits, which takes a lot of time. But yeah, I've been lucky now to have two really fantastic attendance teams.
Yeah. I do miss the contact with them. I do remember a story which I can tell was that we managed to get the attendance level up really high, and we took them out for a Christmas meal, didn't we? And I do still remember a member of staff shocking me with how many children. I said, what was the worst house you'd visited? And then this colleague said, just shocked me with the number of people that were living in that house, you know, on a sort of like a bedroom rota, you know, as to who was going to be sleeping, you know, and then it's the reality of that, you know, that I think I'll always remember that as the reality of that community, you know, at its toughest, you know.
And that's the sort of thing that Ofsted don't see.
I agree.
Did you see the Secretary of State's announcement on the number of children who are, or number of school leavers who are now in employment, training, or it was 90%? So there was a great, I mean, his tweet had some fists on it like this. 10% of kids are NEETs then, according to that.
Yeah.
That's a scandal.
I think though that I think a number of, from my experience, a number of the children that are most vulnerable, who are not the academic ones, some of them have just decided it's been a complete and utter shambles, and I've just given up on it. You know, I mean, and to be honest, I mean, it's not, I shouldn't be saying this, but well, let me say, I understand why they've made that decision. You know, we've got to do something to get them back, but I can understand they feel let down.
You know, you just need to turn that statistic round and say, so 1 in 10 children are NEETs, and you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Yeah. One of the things we had because I'm heavily involved in Blackpool now is that our NEET figure has reduced significantly this year, simply because a bit like you, Caroline, we've just hunted all these kids down.
You
know, so we've really taken the transfer data really, really seriously. So it looks as though we've done a fantastic job. We haven't actually improved it. All we've done is we've got a better understanding where they are. So I suspect that there are many children in that position as well, you know, for whom we've just lost contact with them.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what? That's 35 minutes, folks. And Caroline, you're in a school that's going to close in 9 minutes, so we're going to let you go. But it's been absolutely fantastic having you on, and great to see you again. And I'm not surprised attendance has gone through the roof again. So, you know, you did a great job at that last academy, and no doubt doing a great job now. So thanks for joining us. And Stan, I'll see you next week, all being well. And so thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.